And we should be live. I'm waiting for the confirmation. And there we go. Hi, everyone. We are back. Third installment of our trilogy. I'm here with Alistair, and we are going to do the honorable mentions, all the lists that people have been crying to us about in the comments that we didn't get in the first two rounds of the top axes and top allied selectors. We're going to mention them now. We also had quite a long list of selectors that we both thought should have been in one of these, maybe could have been with the right player, could definitely win something. So this is our honorable mentions. Um, should we preference it with anything more, Alistair? Or is that what we need to
I,
say
th-
right
I
now?
think the only preference I want to tell your audience is that please do not ask for an explanation as to why none of these made it to the top 10. Just accept that they didn't,
Yep,
accept that myself and Bo had thorough conversations about it, and
we
that
did.
this best of the rest, even when Bo presented the final PowerPoint presentation to myself, I looked through it and I thought, yeah,
Mm,
some of these are amazing.
yeah,
We could go back and do all these videos again
yeah.
and come up with more ideas, but this is a good spattering of selectors from lots of different books. I think there's more books here than were in some of the top 10. So
Yeah.
get your library cards out, boys and girls. It's going to be a wild ride.
Right. And I will just share my screen so everyone can see, because of course I made a PowerPoint. That's how this rocks. So we're going to do the top theater selectors. If it wants to go, it doesn't want to go. There we go. Of the honorable mentions. And let's just jump right into it and do the first one. The Battle for Okinawa, the Sugarloaf Hill selector of Imperial Japan. It's on page
Fantastic.
55.
It is indeed. So page 55 of Imperial Japan. So this is 1945. This is the very tail end of the war. So it's Sugarloaf Hill Reinforced Platoon, one second lieutenant, and then one second lieutenant, and then two IGA infantry squads. So that's the
Mm,
minimum requirements.
yeah.
They're quite specific as to what they are. Additional units: headquarters 0 to 1 first lieutenant or captain, 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 1 forward observer artillery only,
Mm,
0 to 1 Kempetai officer. Then infantry or infantry squads, and they can be from IGA infantry, IGA veteran infantry, a maximum of 2 IGA island warfare rifle squads, a maximum of 2 bamboo spear fighters, a maximum of 2 militia squads. And it's got a note that infantry and veteran infantry squads can be dual weapon squads. See page 22, a rules reference.
yeah.
Uh, 0 to 2 MMG teams, 0 to 2 anti tank teams, and that's either anti tank rifle or suicide anti tank team. 0 to 2 mortars, be it light, medium, or heavy. 0 to 2 snipers. And then artillery is 0 to 1, and it's the variations of anti tank gun type 94, type 137mm, type 147mm. There's the mountain gun, an anti-aircraft gun. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit limited there. So
But I guess for me, if I was building this theater selector, I wouldn't go for those selections anyway. I would go for spamming out order dice, um, having loads of suiciders, having double mortars, double snipers,
yeah,
and then a horde of inexperienced infantry, I guess, as the main battle line.
it is that as well. This one of the drivers for this selector was from some of the feedback that we got from your audience,
Yep.
and one of them made the point that, and it is something that I do believe we actually did forget. It's the availability of the spigot mortar.
Yes.
That was a new um, unit that was introduced in Mariana and Palau Islands. It originally occupied the mortar selection, and then it got bumped from mortar into the artillery section. What I neglected to do before coming on with you today, Bo, was to
Mm.
just reconfirm where that can be taken, because it does. The FAQ in the errata did say that it can now be taken as part of a generic platoon,
It
which is
can.
completely fine.
Yeah.
But it's quite specific, from what I recall, as to where it can be taken for theatre selectors, and it's very much guided by island and date.
Yeah.
Um,
So I guess someone in the comments will definitely try to get one up on us on that account.
I am sure, but let's, for the sake of argument,
Yep.
if a spigot mortar is available for this selector,
Oh,
it
get
takes
him.
up the artillery slot,
Yeah.
which you're not going to really. There are no other good choices
Yep.
there anyway, so you will take one.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, you would 0 to 2 mortar, 0 to 2 snipers, and then when you go to your infantry, uh, you're limited to 2 bamboo squads or and 2 militia squads,
But
and that.
that's 4 units, large units of inexperienced troops. Some of them can
Yep.
shoot, some of them can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go for that.
Yep. And then from your core selection, you've got the 2 basic infantry squads as well.
Mm.
Look, it's another good Japanese selector of the many Japanese selectors that we did
Yeah.
speak about, and
Yeah.
I still hold true to what we said in our top 10 axis,
Here's
that
one.
um, our 1937 selection is superior to
Mm.
this. But again, this is a good option because it does. I'm sure it does have the spigot mortar access.
Yeah, and depending on your play style and who you are, this might be better for you. The 1938 selector was good because it had access to the cavalry units, the
Yes.
Manchukuo cavalry, and that's a different way to play Japanese. This is very it's very much what we've seen Japanese players do so far. It's those large units of infantry spread out in front of some HE shots, um, and then supported by suiciders and snipers. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a very classic Japanese army build that you can build with this, and it's
Yeah.
good. It's definitely good.
This is this selector's almost like the cut down version of a dual generic
Yeah,
platoon
yeah.
um, Japanese force, because you've got the 0 to 2 built in with the snipers, the mortars, the anti tank, which is why you would do a dual generic to get it.
Mm.
You don't have to pay the tax, which is why this is good. But you are restricted to 0 to 2 bamboo, 0 to 2 militia. So
Yeah,
it's
and you
it
and you
is
do
some
have
give
to
and
take
take.
those regulars as well. But some people might want to do that anyway. There are build trends where you can do that and get something workable from it. I love
Agree.
this theater selector. I think I should start playing Japanese.
I'm not sold on them just yet, Bo.
Yeah, okay. Well, they're very aggressive, and you did tell me you like to charge these days. So
I do. I need to fix that.
yeah, right. So that was the first of our honorable mentions. The second one is the British Canadian D-Day off the beaches, which is a British selection. It's in the Overlord book, page 164. Um, and of course, it's here because it's got double tank selections.
Yep. And I picked up the wrong book there for a moment. I thought we'd done something bad. Just checking the library. There we go.
Yep,
Overlord.
Overlord.
164. That was my library under the table malfunction audience. I am a huge fan of this selector and was bitterly disappointed that it didn't make the top 10,
Mm.
but it didn't.
Nope.
So we're
And
not
I
going to
guess
dwell on that.
that's my influence. I think it's good, but I don't think it's top 10
Okay.
good.
So let's cover off what you can get access to.
Yep.
So core selections is a first or second lieutenant, then 2 infantry sections, either regular infantry section mid to late war, veteran infantry section late war, or commando or RMC subsections, or a paratroop section. Then additional units. It is a 0 to 1 selection of the special characters from the Overlord book. So it's you can have a captain or a major. Then the special characters, Major Howard, Lieutenant Colonel Otway, Brigadier Lord Lovett, Major Philip Kiefer, and CSM Stan Hollis. And then they reference the various page numbers that you should go to see them. 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 1 forward observer, either naval, artillery, or air. Infantry is 0 to 4, regular infantry mid to late, veteran infantry late war, commando RMC subsections, paratroop section, a maximum of 2 airborne Royal Engineer sections and pioneer sections. 0 to 1 medium machine gun team, 0 to 1 light, medium, or heavy mortar, 0 to 1 flamethrower, 0 to 1 anti tank team, which is restricted to the PIAT, and 0 to 1 sniper. Artillery pieces 0 to 1. Anti tank gun, it's the 6 pounder, 17 pounder light anti aircraft gun, 40mm Bofors, or the 20mm Polson gun. Remembering as well, this is British Canadian D Day off the beaches, so this is immediately after the landings as they are coming off the beaches, so what equipment they had to deal with it then. Armoured car 0 to 1. Reese Carrier, Humber Scout car, Humber Armoured car Mark IV, Humber Light Reconnaissance car, Daimler Armoured car, or the British Airborne Reese Jeep. Then that's the one. Tanks, tank destroyers 0 to 2. So it's the Tetrarch, Cruiser, Centaur, Churchill Aviary, Churchill Crocodile, Sherman 5, Sherman Firefly, M10 Wolverine, M10 17 pounder, M7 Priest, the Sexton, the Machine Gun Carrier, Sherman Dozer, D-Day Sherman, or the Sherman Crab. And then transports 0 to 1. It's Brain Carrier, 3-ton truck, Jeep, utility car, or M5 half track. And then there's the tows, just your normal selection of tows, really. Brain Carrier, quad tractor, terrapin, amphibious truck, should you really desire it. So we did forget to mention in the very opening thread that we, in the same vein as all our other videos on theatre selectors, it's a single theatre selector, no dice limit,
Yep.
1,250 points.
Yeah. And at 1,250, I would maybe consider going for one of the heavier tanks with this selector. What about you?
I've wrote a couple of lists for this, and I always double down on the Sherman 5s.
Yep.
Yep. Go middle of the road. I can't remember exactly how they points out, but just they're two good solid tanks. In the infantry section, double down on the 2 engineer squads that you can take,
Yep.
and obviously take them at veteran, take them 5-man, put them in brain carriers, as you know why that's how you should deliver them into the
Yep.
battlefield. Armored car, it's the airborne recce jeep
Yep.
with the 2 medium machine guns we've discussed
I guess
many
some
times.
people would be tempted with the new A Gentleman's War box to run a Humber car instead. I don't think I'm just points for value. You can't really beat the airborne Jeep. So even though I do understand that that's a lovely model, but I don't think it's
Yeah,
worth it.
and for me as well, thinking the 2 Shermans are going to do a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You don't need any sort of other bigger gun, or as the Humber has a light autocannon, if it's the one I'm
Yeah,
thinking of.
yeah. You can get it with a light autocannon, or you can get it with a light AT gun, I think.
Yeah, if you had the choice between the two, you would take the light autocannon
Yeah.
just for the
Yeah.
multiple shots.
Yeah.
Then, look, going through the list, there'd be a second regular lieutenant. I wouldn't do the tax. I would take a regular lieutenant to hold
Mm,
the line. Just some 7 or 8-man regular infantry squads, as skirmish units, as you like to refer them to.
yeah.
And then it's just a toss up. You get your free observer because you're British
Mm.
in this list, and then do you double down and take another observer, which
You could.
I'm not sure if I would, but it's been able to put the 2 tanks on the field.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what's your thinking on the tanks? How sold
Uh,
are you on taking a big one?
I'm not completely sold, and of course, as I even wrote in my PowerPoint here, I'm missing the steward, but um, I do see the point of running two medium tanks. Otherwise, the Abra is sort of appealing. Just at this point level, you can run a Death Star type tank,
Yep.
and have something else beside it as well. Not sure I would, but it's definitely a possibility that I think you can do when you're above 1,000 points.
Yep. I
Um,
agree. I mean, this all the lists I wrote for this, I landed around 16 order dice. I could never get it quite to the 18 order
yeah,
dice, which I
yeah,
think is the perfect spot for 1250.
yeah.
But with 16 order dice, there were no real cheap giveaway dice. I wasn't trying to, spam little units just to get the dice count up.
Mm,
Every order dice had a good purpose.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, and obviously, the flamethrower and a jeep,
Mm.
um, as
And that
another
would
good
push you
solid
to
unit.
actually having three flamethrowers in the list on top of the two tanks.
Yeah,
There is a lot of good stuff here, and a lot of the infantry is also very survivable if you go for the more expensive veteran stuff, right?
yeah, because you've got. I mean, you mentioned there's no assault infantry, but if you can put down a unit of commandos,
Yeah,
um,
which are good push units. They can
yeah,
definitely push up the table. Yeah.
yeah, and you've still
Um,
got access to a decent truck.
yeah.
So and the half tracks there, but at the moment they're not at the right points
No.
level to
No.
make
No.
it work. So
No. We need a rewrite of those. Right. So that was the British Canadian one.
mhm.
And then we have the fall of Correggio.
Okay.
Corri Corrigidior?
How is your
Corrigidior. Yeah, I think.
the
Don't
foreign
even know where
language
that is.
expert?
Do you know where that is?
I have no idea. Well, I know it's in the Book of Armies of Japan.
Yeah. Page 44 of the Armies of
um,
Japan.
oh no, I can actually tell you. The island fortress of Corregidor lay to the southeast of the Bataan Peninsula
Ah,
in the Philippines. There you go.
Philippines. There you
Courtesy
go.
of Armies of Imperial Japan.
And then we got
Uh,
clever.
and then we got clever, read the words. So that's another good reason to buy the books, people. So this is on page 44.
Right.
So the minimum requirements: one second lieutenant and two IGA infantry squads. Then your additional units: 0 to 1 first lieutenant or captain, 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 2 forward observers, either artillery or air. This is to represent the off map support
Yeah.
that the Japanese had. 1942, this is where they're rapidly expanding through the Pacific, so they've got all their good assets on hand. Infantry: 0 to 4 infantry squads, either IGA infantry, IGA veteran infantry, a maximum of 2 regular or veteran IGA grenadier squads.
Hmm.
So, for those not in the know, they're the ones that have got the multiple knee mortars.
Yes.
0 to
Worth
1
worth taking, especially if you're running them either as those veteran units where they're really hard and you got a lot of mortars in them, or just for the mortars as a regular unit, just extra mortars, extra AG. Yeah.
0 to 1 MMG team, 0 to 1 anti tank team, and that is restricted to the anti tank rifle.
Yeah.
0 to 1 mortar, light, medium, or heavy. 0 to 1 flamethrower, 0 to 1 sniper. Artillery is 0 to 1. This is the Type 94 anti tank gun, then Type 41, Type 92 artillery piece, and then the Type 98 anti aircraft gun. And then tanks: 0 to 1 vehicles. So Type 97 Kai Chi Ha Shin Hoto medium tank, mouthful, or a captured M3 Stuart light tank. See the
Ding,
US Army Bolt Action Supplement.
ding, 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 ding,
Ding, ding,
ding.
ding, ding,
That's the
people.
one we want.
Yep. So,
Would you run
uh,
double artillery observers with this list? I mean,
yes.
of course, you would run the Steward because you can.
Yep.
But would you run double observers,
I would take the double artillery observer. Yep.
especially at
I,
1250, right?
I would do it because what this is lacking
Mm,
is the the cheap infantry and the multiple the multiple sniper,
Yeah.
multiple mortar that you see in the later war Japanese selectors, or the very, very, very early war Japanese
Mm.
selectors. Um, and again, we know that the theatre selectors are geared towards the historical aspect, which I think is very enjoyable.
Yep.
And that's why there's 0 to 2 observers, because it's all off map support. Um, because they are stretching out, they're down in the Philippines by this point. So yeah, 0 to 2 observers, they would both be artillery, just to put the pins out.
Yep.
Uh, and then this would actually end up being quite a low dice army. This would be around 16 order dice again.
Yeah, maybe even lower.
Yeah.
I could go as low as 15. Um, and the plan for me would be to deliver those double artillery bombardments, deliver a lot of pins, and then keep those units pinned with my grenadiers shooting
Hmm.
any mortars, zeroing in before they really get a chance
Yep.
to consolidate and rally.
The other
Um,
reason you need to pin everything down in your opponent's army is you don't have any transports,
nope,
not even a truck.
nope. We're gonna
So
need to foot slog.
you're going to have to run,
Yep,
which is fine because you are a Japanese army,
yep.
so you can banzai as much as you want, and you'll make the moves. You'll go forward, but you're still going to be under fire all the way. There's nothing that can protect you. So,
Mm.
uh, but yeah, having that Stuart with that Japanese flag painted on the side,
Ooh, yeah,
just just to annoy your opponents so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
And obviously, we are talking about the Daka Stuart here.
Yes, of course. There's no other reason to take it.
No,
Otherwise, it's just a low quality light tank.
exactly.
Yeah, but maybe especially because the Japanese don't really have access to that many great tanks. Their tanks are pretty often like paper thin and not really that impressive in damage output. Having the access to finally having that long range Daka, that reaching out ability is really really cool to finally
Yep.
see for Japanese players. Right. So yeah, that's one to watch.
Japanese Stuart.
Japanese do it. Right. Then we have the Allied Romanian Division of 1944 from
Yeah.
Fortress Budapest on
Fortress
page
Budapest.
155.
This is one of my favourite books to shop in for good theatre selectors. The author, Brian Cook, and his team did a great job researching and putting it together. So, Romania, 1944. This is when they, well, depending on what side of the fence you are, either
Yep.
join the good guys or join the bad guys.
Yep.
Who knows? Um, so, page 155. 1944 Allied Romanian Infantry Division. So, minimum requirements: a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant, and then 2 infantry units from late war infantry section or the mountain division, and then additional units: 0 to 1 captain or major, 0 to 1 Soviet commissar, 0 to 1 medic, and 0 to 1 forward observer, either artillery or air. As we go through this selector, there are asterisks next to quite a few units,
Mm.
and the asterisks all indicate that they um, benefit from the Soviet special rules.
Yep.
So the commissar is a Soviet commissar, the forward observer is a Soviet forward observer. Infantry, 0 to 4 infantry squads, late war infantry, mountain division, or combat pioneer section. 0 to 1 medium machine gun teams, 0 to 1 mortars, either light or medium only. 0 to 1 sniper. And then in the artillery section, there's a light artillery piece. There's a whole fleet of anti tank guns.
Mm. Don't
Uh,
take those.
yeah, 75 millimeter, 45 millimeter M42 anti tank gun. The ZIS 2 and the ZIS 3s there.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the anti aircraft gun. It's a a light or heavy automatic cannon. Tanks, 0 to 1. The TACAM R2, the SU 76 assault gun. T-34-76, T-34-85, or the OT-34,
Mm.
Lend-Lease M4A4 Sherman, and the Lend-Lease M4A4 Sherman. So it's the 75mm and the 76mm versions. Transports. Transport vehicles are required for every 2 infantry units in the reinforced platoon, and you get a truck.
Yeah.
0 to 1 tows per Romanian artillery unit, horse-drawn limber, and then 0 to 1 tows per Soviet artillery unit, and that's truck or half-track truck or the Komsomolets. So they do split the difference between
They do.
your artillery pieces. I guess that's just attention to detail.
It is.
So, special selector rules replace all Romanian national rules from the armies of Italy and the Axis with the following. So, Stalin's cannon fodder. The Soviets often used the mass peasant riflemen of their new allies as cannon fodder, throwing them into the most vicious assaults, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
For every 3 Romanian regular or inexperienced sections taken of the same type, a 4th section will be free. This free section is identical to the cheapest squad purchased at the lowest experience level already chosen. So that's buy 3, get 1 free. Red Army support, and this is the rule where it says that units marked with an asterisk benefit from the Soviet special rules. And then a final one, ancestral enemies. Whenever a Romanian and Hungarian unit are engaged in an assault, both sides' units count as having the fanatic special rule. I didn't know the Romanians and Hungarians hated each other.
Apparently, yes. I didn't know
According,
either.
according to page 155, you do. I am truly
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
What are
What
your
would you
thoughts?
do building this one?
Well, it's a tricky one, but this is where you're maxing out on infantry.
Yeah.
And so with your, I'm quite sure the mountain division sections, I don't know if they've got the mountaineering special rule. I would have to go
I think
back
they
and look.
do. I think they do. Yeah.
Let's assume that they do. So you would take 2 mountain division sections from your core selection, then you would take the third one from
Yep.
your 0 to 4, and then you get a free one.
Yep.
That would leave you three more choices. You
Yes.
would then take 3 combat pioneers. They will come with flamethrowers. Then you get a 4th one for free. So you have maxed out on your infantry. You will have 8 infantry
Selections. Yeah.
units on the table, and 4 of them are engineers, and 4 of them, if we have remembered our rules correctly, ignore rough terrain when they move. So you've got 4 assault squads, and you've got 4 engineer squads.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
That's what makes this army,
Yep.
and what makes it worth taking. Um,
Yep.
Right now, I'm waiting for the lists for the WTC to drop, but there's been a lot of talk here about maybe we're going to see some allied Romanian divisions for the WTC simply because that ability to take extra infantry units and to build up your army that way, that is really, really good.
Yep.
You can get a lot of infantry on the table, and if you're playing in a setting where the infantry becomes important, that is extremely good.
I would have to counter what you're saying though, is with the WTC rule set that you talk about,
Yeah,
they're limited to 1,000 points.
they are, which is going to be the big maybe for this one,
Yep.
right? Because you
For
really
for
need the
me in my
points.
mind, yeah, for me in my mind, 1250 makes this selector
Yeah,
work. It makes it
yeah,
worth talking about. The same way that 1250 makes the selectors that let you take multiple big tanks worth talking about.
yeah,
Because you've got eight infantry units here.
yeah,
Sadly, that does mean you have to take 4 trucks.
yeah. It does.
As per the rules. But it does mean though that already you're at 12 order dice, 15
Mm,
order dice, sorry, including the core requirement of a lieutenant.
yeah.
Then you start to
And
add.
and and you have one truck per of your engineer units. because you have 4 trucks, 4 engineer units,
Yes.
which
Be-
sort of fits nicely, doesn't it?
yeah, which is what you need to do. Um, Beyond that, there's some basic choices: a medium mortar, a sniper, an artillery piece. I don't know if
Yeah.
you would bother. I think,
Maybe if you
yeah,
have the points, but you're going to spend your points first on your infantry.
yep,
Get the most out of that, right?
yep. So that's why it's made the list here.
Yep.
There are some big deficiencies on what it can do, especially because with these infantry sections, they're all going to be regular at best,
Yep.
just because that's where the points will drive you to. Um, but it's still it is a good selector for the fact that you get free units if you spend your points wisely.
Yeah. I really like that mechanic. I think more selectors might want to take a look at that.
Hmm. Very much so.
Right. Right. Next one is Budapest Pocket Defenders.
Yes, sticking with the same book.
Fortress Budapest, page 148. And this is the German Hungarian one.
Yep, this was such a tricky selector to not make the top
Yep.
10. It was a hotly spoken about one, um, and I am a fan of it. I've seen it play many times successfully and less successfully, but I have to take a deep breath. There are a lot of selections here,
Right.
and I apologise again to our Hungarian friends for the poor pronunciation, and
Yep.
our German friends also for the poor pronunciation that you're about to experience by me.
Mm,
So page 148, and it expands onto 149.
mm.
Pocket defenders. So lieutenant, it's a second or first lieutenant, either German or Hungarian. 2 infantry units. Hot damn. Experienced Honved Division Section, Replacement Honved Division Section, Assault Pioneer Section, either German or Hungarian, Gendarmerie Battalion Section, Arrows Cross Militia Section, Vannes Battalion Flying Squad, University Assault Battalion Section, Danube Flotilla Infantry Section, Panzer Grenadier Squad, Here Veteran Grenadier Squad, Here Grenadier Squad, 22nd SS Cavalry Division Squad, 8th SS Cavalry Division Squad. I'm
Wow.
exhausted. I'm
Yeah.
exhausted already.
But that's one of the things with this selector, isn't it? That you actually get a lot of different choices. You can go many ways with this, which is one of the things that
Yeah,
many other theater selectors doesn't allow you to do. So in that
correct. They,
respect,
they,
it's already pretty nice because you get
yeah.
options.
Then the additional units, so 0 to 1 Captain or Major, 0 to 1 Medic, 0 to 1 Forward Observer, Artillery only. Then it's 0 to 4 Infantry Squads, exactly the same selections I have just discussed with you, audience. We're not going to go through it again. But what I do want to double check, yeah, the Assault Pioneers are still in there as well.
Yeah.
Then 0 to 1 MMG teams, either German or Hungarian. 0 to 1 mortar team, light, medium, or heavy, again, German or Hungarian. 0 to 1 sniper, German or Hungarian. 0 to 1 anti tank team, so it's the Panzerschreck, German or Hungarian, or the 44-meter rocket launcher, I can't pronounce that.
Mm.
Panzer RM, sorry,
Panzerem,
Hungary.
Pankelrem, I think
Pank,
maybe
Pankelrem?
Pankelrem.
Yeah,
But
rocket,
that sounds German to me. Maybe it's wrong. Anyways,
rocket launcher. Artillery, 0 to 1. Pack 40 light anti-tank gun, or the 44-meter. Oh, it's the rocket launcher, but it's the other one.
mm,
Buzzo Ganeveto. Really sorry,
maybe.
guys. Got nothing for you. Field artillery, light, medium, or heavy. Anti-tank gun. Anti-aircraft gun. 40mm Bofors gun. 80mm heavy anti-aircraft gun. 88 Flak 36 dual purpose, or the Flak 38. Then it is in the vehicle section 0 to 1. Man, it is busy. So do my best. Got the 8 rad, the 250/9 half track, the 251/23 half track, Kugelwagen, Schwimmwagen, Panther, Panzer IV, Hummel, Stug 3, Stu 42, Hetzer, the Zerini 2, Wirbelwind, the Mobile Wagon, the SD KFZ 7/2 with the armoured cab, the Drilling, the Flak Panzer 38T, the Stummel, some other version of Stummel, Flampanzer's there, Flampanzer wagon, sorry, mortar carrier, of course, the Italian Dakar tank, the Polizia M15 42,
Yeah.
the Turin, the Kaseba, the Turin 2, the Toldi, Nimrod, self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. Wow.
Yep.
Man, it must have been like a car park in Budapest.
Well, I think it
And
wasn't
then,
that many actual vehicles. It was just, everything that was left over. So it was a little bit of everything.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then transports and tows, 0 to 1 transport vehicle per infantry and artillery unit in the reinforced platoon. So truck, heavy field car, Kubel wagon, Schwimm wagon, 251/1 half track, 251/10 half track, theaters, special rules. This is where it's important. Each unit retains all the national special rules appropriate to them. If any German infantry units are included in the reinforced platoon, then a German HQ must be included with the same reinforced platoon. German officers in this platoon may use the USNAP to action on all friendly units within command range, whereas Hungarian officers only affect Hungarian units. So obviously the Germans didn't really listen to their Hungarian brothers.
No, they were the master race
And
after all. Yeah.
this is, as they said. And then street barricades. This platoon receives D3 defensive positions, which are 6-inch linear objects and count as hard cover. They're always deployed before any units on either side can be placed anywhere within the Axis deployment zone. And if the scenario has no deployment zone, set up the defensive positions within 12 inches of the Axis table edge.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. That is really good stuff. And this selector for me is one of the places where you can really build a really, really good barbecue list. It's got the support, it's got the infantry selections with the pioneers. Um, you can even setting up those defensive positions. You can sort of do a little bit of ball control with that, where you want the enemy to go and not go, or what you want to defend. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff going on here. But we're back to Germans and Hungarians, which are not maybe the best troop selections that you can get access to. So that's the balance for me. What do you feel about it, Al?
I like this selector a lot, but it is deficient in multi-launcher. Would be really nice to have had one somewhere in here.
Mm,
Um, I agree that you lean heavily into the pioneers
yeah.
to get your flamethrowers and Panzerfausts. You should have the Grenadier squads, and within this rule set, they benefit from re-rolling their order tests when they're getting into or out of vehicles.
Mm,
So that's worth bearing in mind when you take them. I wouldn't take anything as Hungarian
no.
because there isn't any real benefit. Their special rules are surpassed by the German special rules.
Yeah.
Um, Tank choice, I think, is crucial.
Mm,
You do have to pick one. The absolute raft I just read out, genuinely, audience, you have to pick one of these because I read them all
mm.
to you. Um, and that's where I become quite stuck. I know that you would probably take one of the Flampanzer
Uh,
wagon, maybe.
yeah, either a Flampanzer or the Italian Darker tank. I think I would go with one of these.
Yeah,
What about you?
I'd be tempted by the. Yeah, it has to be the Italian Dakar tank. It really does.
Mm.
just to support those other elements going forward.
Yeah.
But it's making use of the defensive barricades. I mean, it's D3, so okay, you know you're going to get one,
Mm.
but I always like the idea of building a little bunker.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an objective situation,
Mm.
and if you do have an objective within your own, be it quarter or board half, which you usually end up doing,
Yeah.
you can build a little bunker around it, and that's where I like the idea of having an artillery piece.
Mm.
Uh, and I'd be tempted to just stick with a classic medium artillery piece
Mm.
and have it behind this barricade so that it's in hardcover,
Hardcover. Yeah.
gun shield.
Yeah. It's going to be really difficult to dig that out unless you drop
Yep,
a mortar on it.
yep. Which is, yeah, obviously what you're hoping not to have happen. But it's again when it's compared to other selectors that we have spoken about in the
Mm.
past that have got the multiplier of 0 to 2 for
Yeah.
artillery pieces, mortars, snipers. Um, that's where this starts to come onto
Yeah.
shakier ground. But uh, it's the barricades, the ability to build a bunker, and the as you said, the variety of troop choices you can get access to. We've both you and I have leaned heavily into the pioneers just to get
Mm.
the flamethrowers on the table.
But you could go other ways, right? You could
Yeah,
lean into the cavalry, or I mean, there are loads of other ways you could go with this.
yeah. It's got good flexibility.
Mm.
But yeah, that's how I would play it out. It's a good
Great.
selector.
Really good.
I know this is going to sound really terrible from a modeling perspective, but it doesn't specify how high these barricades are supposed to be. Obviously, you still want your guys to be able to shoot over them, but if you're wanting to protect that tank and make sure that your barricades are tall enough to give it hard cover,
Yeah. You
Bose
should just
Bose
you should
channel
you
Bose,
should build it to a height where it's like 51% of your tank height,
yeah,
whichever tank you choose.
Bose channel is geared towards competitive bolt action.
Yeah.
You've got the opportunity here to, as Bo just said, build a good barricade to protect whatever tank you're deciding to choose, but also make sure that you can still see over it to shoot.
Exactly. Which is dumb, and it gives you way too much leverage on what that is supposed to be. Um,
Yep.
yeah, but since it's there, you should definitely use it. Right. Let's move on. Polish Cavalry Squadron, which is in Germany Strikes on page 27.
Yep. I have to dig deep into the library for this one. So Germany Strikes.
Yeah. Not
This is
a great
very
book for theater selectors. We haven't had many Germany strikes lists in our theater evaluations here in our trilogy.
no. Well, this was published in 2014, Bo.
Yep.
So this is
Long
one of
time
the
ago.
earliest books.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of the earliest books in the game. Excuse me. So as I said, we had to dig deep into the library for this one, but Polish Cavalry Squadron. Obviously, this is the fall of Poland.
Mm.
So Polish Cavalry Squadron, one lieutenant, first or second, two cavalry sections or dragoons. So that's the minimum requirements for the selector. HQ 0 to 1 captain or major, 0 to 1 forward artillery observer, 0 to 1 medic, infantry sections 0 to 3. So cavalry sections or dragoons, 0 to 1 bicycle sections, 0 to 1 medium machine gun team, 0 to 1 mortar, medium only, 0 to 1 anti tank rifle, artillery 0 to 1, and it is the anti tank Bofors 37, so light anti tank gun,
Mm.
field artillery, light field gun, which is a light howitzer, and the 75 mm Armata Polo Wa, which I believe is a medium artillery piece, and then anti-aircraft gun. It's the Bofors 40 mm heavy automatic cannon. 0 to 1 armored cars, WZ-29 Ursus or the WZ-37. I actually have no idea what they are.
The Ursus, I remember, is a heavy armed car. Think I think I think it has 8 plus armor value and maybe
Yep.
a light AT gun or something like that.
Okay. Tankettes 0 to 1 TK6 tankette, and then transports transport vehicle per infantry section, truck, field car, or the PZLNZ 222 half track,
Mm.
and then it's that same half track for a tow. Special rules. Dragoons. Many of these cavalry units would have dismounted and their horses removed to a place of safety prior to the battle. This is the same as a cavalry section. See page 77 of the Armies of France and the Allies. But
Mm.
the section is bought dismounted at -2 per man. Bicycle section. This is the same as an infantry section. Page 76 of Armies of France and the Allies. But the section is mounted on bikes for +1 point per man. Bikes, bicycle mounted infantry, follow the same rules as infantry except when moving entirely on a road, in which case they double their run move to 24 inches. Obviously, this cannot be an assault. In addition, the first time they
Imagine
receive
a bicycle mounted assault going down a road.
all, all of a sudden there'd be Gurkhas on mountain bikes
Yes, it
everywhere.
would.
Um, sorry, the first time they receive any order other than a run, or if they receive pinning a pin marker, they dismount and abandon their bikes for the rest of the game. So
It's a
you don't.
single move. Don't ever do
Yep,
that. That
don't
it's
ever
not
do it.
worth it.
And then communication breakdown. No hope of retreat and elite officer class army special rules are in effect, as described on page 75 of Armies of France and the Allies.
Yeah. So
So,
what makes this good for me is the access to the Polish Lancers, of course. And
yep,
at the same time, you in effect get two armored cars. You have one which is the armored car choice and one which is the tankette choice, right?
yep.
Um,
That's,
and you should always take the TKS tankette. It's really good. With a front-facing light autocannon. It's really cheap for what it does, and it does have recce. I would also consider the Ursus just because it's a heavier armored car, and I do believe it can split fire as well. So it has like both a coaxial and a hull-mounted MMG, I think. Um, so I would go with double armored cars for this, and then Lancers all round. And the Polish Lancers are just very good. Although they are a very specialized unit, you're going to need to train with them in order to get good with them. But we have seen very good players do very well with Polish Lancers, so it can be done.
yep.
What do you feel about
And
it?
the reason we're talking about it is it's a concession to the fact that the Polish Lancers are such a good unit.
Yeah,
Um, but they're, when it comes to accessing them through theatre selectors, they're extremely hard to come by, and I'm pretty sure this is the only theatre
it
selector
is.
I've found that has them in it. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah,
Um, and you can only get five squads of them, which is enough. But then it's just finding that support, as Bo said, both the tank and the armor car slots have to be occupied. Uh, look, I would toss the coin between that medium howitzer and the Bofors
mm,
heavy autocannon. Um, because the other thing you're extremely deficient in is how to kill a tank.
yeah,
Genuinely, if you had to bump into even one of the selectors we just mentioned here,
yeah.
um, uh, off the beaches, the
Mm,
British and Canadian,
yeah.
if if two Shermans roll up in front of you, I don't know how you're going to kill them.
You can't even damage them. Um,
No, you've got an anti-tank rifle, maybe a light anti-tank gun, maybe a light autocannon and something else, but so that's where I see the deficiencies here.
Yeah. This list though would definitely roll over Japanese infantry hordes because the lancers would just run through them. But
Yeah,
going up against double tanks is going to be really rough for this one. So it is
yep,
there is a definite trade-off here.
yep. And I hope our, you know, friends understand when I say this. It's very historical. This is Poland, 1939.
Yep.
Doesn't even have to be a Sherman. Sorry, had to say it.
Yep. Right. We're moving on
Oh,
to the next one, which is the 100th Panzer Replacement Squad.
wow.
It is German. It's in the D-Day Overlord book,
Yep.
page 172, and it's basically a tank platoon.
Yes. 172. Overlord is such a thick book. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a nice bit of text about the 100th Panzer Replacement Division. It's a training battalion,
Mm,
and I think the what the Germans did in France was because they captured so much equipment off the French and the British, they were just experimenting and tinkering with it,
yeah. Yeah.
which is where a lot of this comes from. So this is, as you have said, is effectively is a tank platoon. Um, so core requirements: command vehicle, Panzer 35R,
Mm,
which is the Renault R35, Panzer 3 H, and you can only ever have one in your entire army. Uh, they can be given the command vehicle special for plus 25 points. Then you've got two vehicles. It's the Suma S35, the Renault R35, the Hotchkiss H39, the Renault FT, Flampanzer B2. Again, though, maximum of one in your entire force. So those are your core
mm,
requirements. Then 0 to 2 vehicles again. So it's the Suma S35, the Renault R35, the Hotchkiss H39, the Renault FT, the Flam Panzer, if you haven't already taken one, and then the Stug 3 G. Infantry 0 to 3, here Grenadier squads, Osttruppen squads, a maximum of 2 ROA Fanatics, and a maximum of 1 Storm Pioneer squad. 0 to 1 lieutenant, either first or second, 0 to 1 captain or major, 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 1 observer, excuse me, forward or observer artillery only, 0 to 1 medium machine gun, 0 to 1 Panzerschreck, 0 to 1 Goliath, 0 to 1 sniper, 0 to 1 mortar, light, medium, or heavy, artillery piece, pack 40, pack 43, light, medium, or heavy artillery, the 105 mountain gun. Um, that's for the medium howitzers.
mm.
Anti-aircraft gun, Flak 38 or the Flak 36. Transports and tows. The 100th Panzer Replacement and Training Battalion Armour Platoon does not need to equip its infantry units with transports.
Yeah. Which is a nice addition because
That requirement of a tank platoon is removed.
yeah. Um, and I mean, with the tanks that you have available here, this is not an optimized version of a tank platoon. Going a
Not at
generic
all.
tank platoon would be better, but since you don't have the requirement of running transports, that actually
Yep.
does give it a little nice boost, and it does have access to a lot of really interesting and fun tanks as well. I mean, the Flampanzer is
Yep.
definitely good. The Hotchkiss,
It
if you
does.
can get it with the multi launcher on top, is definitely good. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
Yep.
What would you buy
And
for
and that's
your? Sorry, yeah.
well, just to cover off though, transports they get access to trucks, Kuba wagons, heavy field car,
Mm,
and the tows are the various half tracks, multi-year kit and crad,
yeah,
horse-drawn limber. And this is as you just said, right, the crux of it. What do you take? Command vehicle wise,
mm,
I would try and go as cheap as possible.
yep,
So you're actually going to walk past the Panzer III because that doesn't have access to the extra machine gun.
yep,
It's the wrong mark.
mm,
Um, so it is going to be the R30, the R35 is the command vehicle.
yeah.
What I would do, and what I have tried to do with this theatre selector in the past when I've written lists, is you want to get the 4 Hotchkiss H39 tanks.
Yep.
They are found on page 149 of the same book. And what I need to do is talk your audience through them just so they can understand exactly what
Mm.
it is this tank can do. There's a whole bunch of history. I'm not
Yep.
going to bother boring you with
No,
it, but it's a captured vehicle.
it is.
Um, so it's 105 points regular. It's got one turret-mounted low-velocity light anti-tank gun with coax medium machine gun, and it's an 8 plus armored light tank.
Mm.
You've got the option to upgrade the low-velocity gun to a proper light anti-tank gun for 10 points.
Yeah.
Now, the main upgrade though is a Verfamin rocket launcher at plus 40 points.
Yep.
So it's a multi-launcher adaptation onto the tank, which then would take it. I wouldn't buy the gun upgrade.
No.
So your tank costs, it's 145 points. It's an 8 plus armored tank, fully enclosed armored tank, a low velocity light anti tank gun, coax MMG. For sure, it's got the one man turret. So to represent this, it's always necessary to make an order test when
Mm.
issuing an advance order,
Mm.
which is fine. Um, but it's a multi launcher. So
Yes.
if you, the direct comparison is that if you've got a DACA Stewart,
Yep.
um, that's 140, isn't
That
it?
45. Yeah.
Whereas this tank, it's got better armor because it doesn't have the weak sides, and it's got a multi launcher on it, and you get
Mm.
4 of them.
Yep. That is amazing. Although it
Yep.
is, of course, the hunt for sixes, right? It is a what I call a noob basher build because you're spamming multi launchers and hoping that some of them will hit. But if they do hit, it's going to be a ton of bricks coming down on you. It really hits hard.
Yep.
Um, it does.
Yep.
The
But
infantry is not
that's why
great.
you. No, the infantry's not great, but you still get a pioneer squad,
Yeah.
and you can still take 2 regular, 2 here grenadier squads. So you've got access to some, troops that can carry some Panzerfaust and some flamethrowers. So you've got some punch there. You've got the right vehicles for them.
Mm.
Heavy field car, to move them around.
Yeah.
Um, it's I mean that's why it's in the honourable mentions because there are
Mm.
deficiencies.
Yeah.
Um, if you're rolling around the 4 multi-launcher tanks, uh, I would take a second lieutenant on this to
Mm.
keep them near
Yeah.
um, the multi-launchers for the leadership bonus,
Mm.
um, and also for the snap to action. If you can snap 2 of these guys uh, at the start of a turn,
Mm.
because you are saying it's like you're rolling a 6, there's no real skill involved.
No.
But if you're in a 12, 50-point game and you're firing 4 multi-launchers per turn, you would want to make sure your targets are selected in such a way that you're hitting at least 3 targets per multi-launcher.
Yeah. That would be
Um,
best. Yeah.
so that's 12 individual d6s you're rolling every turn.
Mm.
I'm taking big swathes of
Yeah.
statistics here.
Yeah.
All
They
you're
they
needing is 1/6.
yeah. They should crop up, and they do. I've actually faced this list in the hands of Manuel,
Have
the
you?
German team captain at Jan's tournament on Fyn. Bring your guns, and it was a terrible, terrible matchup. I lost the game. It was the only game I lost, and it
Hmm.
was a hard game, and there were too many buildings and. Yeah, so and it was back when the Osttruppen was still good. So he was bringing like huge units of Osttruppen with his Hotchkiss tanks
Yeah.
and just re-rolling their order dice because they were full strength, right?
And
So
did he have
yeah,
4 of them?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a rough game, but a good one. It was a really good game. I enjoyed it immensely once I got over the fact that I lost. So right, and then we have the Burma 1942 to 45. This is a British one. It's in the armies of Great Britain, page 77.
All the way at the bottom of the pile. Armies of Great Britain. Page 77. When was this printed?
Long ago.
Feels like a lifetime ago. Oh my goodness. 2012.
Oof. Yep.
How old were you in 2012, Bo?
Pretty old still. I'm an
Yeah.
old man.
I was 32 when this book came out. I feel like a young pup. So 1942 to 1945, Burma. So Burma Reinforced Platoon, one lieutenant, either first or second, and then two regular infantry sections mid to late war, or two Chindit sections.
Mhm.
So it's not the option to mix them. It's either two regular or two Chindits.
Yes.
HQ 0 to 1 captain or major, 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 1 observer, either artillery or air. Then it's 0 to 4 infantry sections. So regular infantry sections mid to late war, inexperienced infantry sections mid to late war, veteran infantry sections mid to late war, Chindit sections or Gurkha sections. 0 to 1 medium machine gun team, 0 to 1 mortar, light, medium, or heavy, 0 to 1 anti tank team, specifically the Pia, 0 to 1 sniper team, artillery, 0 to 1. It's the anti tank guns, 6 pounder light artillery piece, or the 40mm Bofors gun. Then armored car, 0 to 1. Humber armored car Mark IV, the Daimler armored car, the Daimler Dingo, the Reese carrier, or the Indian pattern carrier. Tanks 0 to 1. Excuse me, M3 Stuart Mark 1 or 2, M5 Stuart Mark 3 or 4, M3 Grant, M3 Lee, Sherman 1, Sherman 3, Sherman 2A, Matilda Frog and Murray, machine gun carrier, or the Bofors AA truck. Transport vehicle per infantry unit in the reinforced platoon, Bren carrier, 3-ton truck or jeep. Tows, Bren carrier, 15 30-ton trucks, or the quad tractor.
Mm. Right.
I turned the page expecting there to be a bit more, but
Yep.
there
There
isn't.
isn't. It's
No.
pretty much just a standard reinforced platoon. But what makes it to the list for me is that this is one of the only ones where you can actually get access to a lot of Gurkhas with a steward as well. That is the combination here that I find that is rare in theatre selectors. Um,
Yep.
so, but and this is going to sound strange coming from me. I would actually consider not running the steward with this list because for me the steward is there to wipe out infantry units or at least to make them go down or whatever to reach out and kill stuff, right? I would consider running the Lee instead because it has double anti-tank guns, which or double cannons, right? Um, and that's one of the things that most British armies is missing. It's missing that anti-tank capability, which the Lee does have, although it's a huge tank, a very tall tank. So, what would you do here?
Uh, First of all, with the tank thing, I agree. I have bumped into both a Grant and a Lee recently at
Mm,
a recent tournament I attended. I could kill neither of them, and I tried really hard.
mm,
Their ability to spit out, you know, a medium artillery shot and a light anti-tank gun or light artillery shot was
mm,
was really frustrating.
yeah.
So that ability to split fire and split fire well was good. Uh, for the life of me, it's picking the Gurkhas is easy. You pick
Mm,
them.
yeah.
Um,
And
the light
supported
arc.
by a few chintits
That
skirmishing in the center
that
of the board
that's
is really
that's
good
it.
as well.
It's the Chindits,
Yeah,
because they benefit. They're more like an American style unit.
yeah,
They can move and fire.
mm,
They don't suffer a -1 for reserves.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I would take the two Chindit sections as my core requirements. And then, of course, you're backed up by the national special rules, so it would be Up and Atom and the
mm,
Free Artillery Observer. There's also, the Bren carriers are there, so maybe two small Gurkha sections and one large Gurkha section.
yeah, yeah,
I don't use Gurkhas.
yeah.
I've never actually had the
I would
pleasure of
footstock
using
them
them.
in 8-man units, but you can run them 5-man unit style in brain carriers if you want to,
Yep.
and that does deliver you some other options for the brain carriers. It does. Um, just not for me. For me, that is that's the realm where you want para Gurkhas with submachine guns, right? If you're running them 5-man
Yep.
units. If you're just running them rifles, standard Gurkhas, then I think you should run them 8-man on foot. That's how I would do it anyway.
Yep. But no, that's the reason this selector's here. It's the mass access to Gurkhas, which is what we haven't seen in other selectors, uh, which is why theatre selectors are good in the sense that they are historical and they tie units
Mm,
to a geographical place and time when they were in use. So
yep,
um, you have to compromise if you want to get them. If you love Gurkhas, compromise. Go
yep,
there.
yep. Right. And that brings us to one of the weird ones because we have to talk about Luftwaffe Defense Force as well,
Yeah.
um, which is in the D-Day British Canadian sectors. It's on page
Oh,
178. Um, and before we talk about what's actually in it, I think we should talk about the national special rules because that is what makes or breaks this one, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, it might sound strange that the Luftwaffe, being German, have a different set of national special rules to Germany, but they do. You have to
Mm,
accept that, viewers and listeners. So on page 172 of the same book, second-rate troops. The men of the Luftwaffe were generally not well suited for frontline soldiery. Many suitably robust fighters were picked out and transferred to the Fallschirmjäger. So this force may not include any veteran infantry or artillery. Although the Luftwaffe Field Division had a few armoured vehicles, elements of armour support came from the various Heer and SS units around them.
mm,
Poor quality NCOs. Luftwaffe NCOs were not trained to the same extent as their Heer counterparts, and as such did not benefit from the initiative training rules on page 17 of the Armies of Germany. Um,
So they're vulnerable to
yep,
snipers.
yep. So the audience knows that if a German NCO dies, it's a 2+, and somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah.
picks up their hat and their stripes and gets an instant promotion. In saying that, though, prepared defences, although poorly trained, Luftwaffe field divisions were, for the most part, dug in and waiting for the inevitable onslaught. A Luftwaffe force may include up to 100 points of defences for free, chosen from the fortifications found on page 184 and 185. These must be set up after sites have been determined, but before any models are set up. They may only be deployed on the German half of the table.
Mm,
For the record, 184 and 185. So 100 points. The first one obviously is barbed wire.
yeah.
10,
And that's
10
the one you're getting. There's little
it,
reason to get anything
yeah,
else.
but it's 10 points per 6 inch by 1 inch strip. Um, but for completeness, trench sections,
Mm,
25 points per 6 inches. An artillery position, 25 points per position, and a bunker, 50 points per bunker.
mm,
Um, and for bunkers, it references the main rule book. So
yeah. Now, uh, one of the slightly controversial things about this is the barbed wire in the British and Canadian sectors book. It has slightly different wording from barbed wire in other books, which means
Mm.
that depending on your TO's interpretation, that might actually be significant because the barbed wire in the British Canadian sectors book doesn't state that it is removed if a tank runs over it. Um, which it does in other books. So, and that can be a huge difference because what you want to do with the Luftwaffe Defense Force, and Ali is going to talk you through what's in it in a minute. But what you really want to do is you want to control the board with all that barbed wire because you can buy 60 inches of barbed wire. You can plaster the board. You can sort of close down off if you're lucky and the terrain is to your advantage. You can close off the whole board so the enemy can't advance until they or they can, but at some point they're going to come up against your barbed wire fences and are going to have to deal with them, which is really hard. Um, yeah. So Ali, what's in it?
Right.
What
So
can you get?
the selection itself. So Luftwaffe Defense Force, page 178. Lieutenant, first or second.
Mm,
Infantry squads, it's Luftwaffe Defense Squad or Luftwaffe Field Division Squad, two of them. Then HQ, 0 to 1 captain or major or 0 to 1 medic.
mm,
Infantry, 0 to 5, it's Luftwaffe Defense Squad, Luftwaffe Field Division Squad. Osttruppen, you may have one squad of Osttruppen per two of any Luftwaffe squad,
mm,
and a maximum of one Luftwaffe Pioneer Squad. 0 to 3 medium machine guns, 0 to 1 mortar, either medium or heavy. 0 to 2 guns, so it's the Pack 38 and the Pack 40, light, medium, or heavy artillery, and then anti aircraft gun, it's the Flak 38, Flak 36, the Flak Zwilling 43, the 88 millimeter, of course, would have to be, it's the Luftwaffe. Then tanks is 0 to 2, Renault F-17 or the Turmstilung.
yep.
Transports 0 to 1, truck, Kubelwagen, Kettenkrad, or horse wagon per infantry platoon, and then tow 0 to 1, truck, Kubelwagen, Kettenkrad, or horse limber per artillery unit. Special rules, tactical defense. The defense forces were used to doing exactly that. In any scenario that requires an attacker and defender, a Luftwaffe defense force will always defend. In the case of any conflict, blah, 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 not relevant.
No, but it does mean that in all attacker defender scenarios, you get to deploy your barbed wire if you bring it, which is what you want to have happen.
Yep.
Right. For me, what I would bring, and I've faced off against this defense force. I have two players in my local club that have brought this repeatedly over this last year, and it's actually one of the only lists that I have been training up to the WTC, and my list for that, I've lost to the Luftwaffe Defense Force, but to nothing else for the last half year. So and this is a really difficult list to attack, and I would bring 188 and one flak Zwilling if we're just running single platoon here. Maybe go double 88, but the Zwilling is just so good as well. It really it just cuts through anything that is not a 9+10+ tank. It's really strong. Um, Maybe even the MGs. I can't remember if you're allowed to bring the light machine guns. If you have to bring medium machine guns, I think you
Has to be the medium machine guns.
ah sucks. Yeah. And then of course there's the mobile Renault FT-17s. Not very good, but it's there. I would bring that instead of the Turmstilling. This Turmstilling is basically a duck down tank where it's only the turret sticking out of the ground. And I wouldn't bring that. Um, the mobility of the Renaults are better in my view. And then you have, of course, loads of infantry slots. So you get a lot of infantry, not very good, but it's there. Yeah. So this is all about the board control for me. and having the enemy making sure that the enemy is attacking you so that you can sit there and go on ambush with your artillery pieces.
Yeah, I'm glad you've had experience playing against it. For me, I have only ever read
Mm,
stories and read the selector and imagined what's
yeah,
possible. With so much barbed wire. But I would, I would do the same in terms of the artillery pieces
yeah,
that you've just spoken about. I would have the two Renault F-17s just because they're good little pillboxes with the medium machine guns built into them.
mm,
Um, Infantry wise, yeah, I would just get as many as possible, as cheap as possible, just so that
yeah,
there's a meat shield for them
yeah.
to work through. I would get that Luftwaffe Pioneer Squad. I just want to make sure that they've got some good access. Ugh, they don't even get a Panzerfaust,
Yeah.
just the flamethrowers.
Well, the flamethrower can be enough, and it just sits there being a threat behind something that's line of sight blocking, and with just enough reach to reach most of the barbed wire. So as soon as you move up to the barbed wire to try and cut your way through it, it'll come up and it'll flame you. That's how I've seen it used, and it does work. And you have to, you sort of, when you want to assault that, you have to layer your assault. So you have to have some units on ambush, some units pushing forward, some units making sure that the artillery doesn't kill you. um, it's just a hassle, and you need to have
Yeah,
the right tools for the job.
I mean, there's so much missing. No sniper. I
Yeah,
like a sniper.
yeah.
Good for solving problems. Being a defense force,
Mm.
it's going to suffer from forward observers and other enemy artillery ranging in.
It
So you
is,
have to be able
yes.
to go out and stop that from happening. It's a tough one, but then again, if you've got barbed wire
Yeah.
running all the way through, the table, and you're channeling your opponent, because, as you said, there's discussion.
Mm.
When is there not discussion on rules and about actually
Always,
doing it?
always, until someone brings out the version 3, please. Warlord Games
Yep.
version 3.
But I
um
think what we've spoken about though with the barbed wire and my interpretations of all the rules being in that um, tracked tracked vehicles can drive over them and
mm,
destroy them in their 6-inch strips.
mm,
Other than that, they're impassable.
yeah.
Well,
And
no,
and there are some rules
engineer,
where
engineer,
engineers can cut through
en-
them, and
yeah,
regular infantry can as well, but it's way easier for engineers.
yeah, but that still takes time. They have to move
Yeah,
up to one strip,
yeah.
and
And
then
then
do a
sort of zero in like you do when you're shooting indirectly.
yeah. But there's also a down order required, so it's almost like
Yeah,
two turns to
yeah,
take one out.
yeah.
So if you came across an a Japanese infantry horde with
Yeah.
no tracked vehicles and no engineers, this is this is where the Luftwaffe play very much rock paper scissors with your
Yeah,
opponent.
yeah, they do. Yeah.
Um, so it's yep, it's exciting. I look forward to maybe playing against this one day in the future. But then again, I've never to date I have never had an army that's never had some sort of tracked vehicle in it.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And that brings us to the Canadian Infantry Division, which I do believe is the last one of our honorable mentions here. So it's obviously the Canadian one. Is from the D-Day British Canadian Sectors, page 152.
152. Yes, here it is. So, Canadian Infantry Division, 1943 to 1944. So, first or second lieutenant, two Canadian infantry sections. So, that's the core requirements.
Hmm?
Headquarters, 0 to 1 captain or major, 0 to 1 medic, 0 to 1 observer, either artillery or air, 0 to 1 intelligence officer, or 0 to 1 chaplain. Uh, it goes without saying, these are all Canadian.
Yeah.
This is Canadian, Canada. It sounds so dumb saying that, but just to remind the audience. Infantry, 0 to 4 infantry sections. Armoured car support, assault section, Canadian field engineer, Assault Pioneer section, a maximum of one Canadian Tank Hunter section, a maximum of one Canadian Scout Recce Patrol, 0 to 1 medium machine gun teams, 0 to 1 mortar teams, light, medium, or heavy, 0 to 1 anti tank teams, anti tank rifle or PIAT, 0 to 1 Canadian Scout Sniper team, 0 to 1 flamethrower, and then artillery is anti tank, 2 pounder, 6 pounder, 17 pounder, 3.7 inch QF AA gun, field artillery, light, medium, or heavy, or the land mattress,
Mm?
anti tank, anti aircraft gun, the Bren AA gun, single mount, or the 20mm Polston cannon, or the 40mm Bofors cannon, armored car 0 to 1, a recce carrier, otter light reconnaissance car, fox armored car, humber light reconnaissance car, lynx scout car, humber scout car, humber armored car mark 4, daimler armored car, the M8 greyhound, staghound armored car mark 1 or 2, tanks Sherman, M4A4 Sherman with the flail, Canadian Stuart, Churchill AVRE infantry tank, it's the Mark IV Churchill Crocodile, cruiser, Centaur, the SP Autocar, M10 Wolverine, M10 17 pounder Achilles, Archer, SP 17 pounder, Wasp 2, the Sexton, the Priest, the machine gun carrier, 3 inch mortar carrier, Bofors AA truck, Polston AA truck, Crusader AA tank, and the Staghound AA.
Yeah.
Transports, Ram Kangaroo, Priest Kangaroo, Bren Carrier, 15 ton, 3 ton trucks, Jeep utility car, M5 half track, M3 White Scout car, M29 Weasel, and then there's tows. There's tows. You
Yeah.
can tow your guns.
Okay.
Canada.
Yeah.
Who knew Canada were so
They've
good?
they've got a lot of good. For me, it's especially the vehicles that are attractive here.
Yeah,
Um, they've got access to the Stackhound AA, which is an amazing little. It's a tank and it's got double autocannons.
it's
And
open top.
it's in yeah, well, and it's still got recce as well.
It does.
It's an amazing little thing, and the regular Stackhound, I love my regular Stackhound. But
Agree.
in the transport section,
Yeah, it's the Rams.
yeah.
Yep. Do you want to tell the audience if they're maybe not familiar?
Well, the
Just
ram is basically somebody took a tank and pulled off the turret and said, "Well, this is our transport." So it's basically a turretless 9 plus tank, um, open topped. Um, so it's tracked. What's the armament? Is it like one hull mounted forward facing
it's
machine gun?
it's just one medium machine gun. Yep.
Yeah. Um, and then it can transport. I can't remember how many men, but an infantry section of something like 8 or 12. I can't remember. But the cool thing here is it's the only transport in the game, to my knowledge, that's 9 plus.
Hmm.
It's the only transport in the game, and you can spam out 9 plus vehicles in this selector. So all of your vehicles could end up being 9 pluses, which would overwhelm most Panzerfaust heavy armies. They would simply struggle to kill all your vehicles.
Yep. Very much so. It's it's the flexibility within this selector.
Mm.
You've said one path you can go down
Yep.
to your audience with the sort of twin staghound version, which is something I would definitely look at myself.
Mm.
Um, the land mattress is there.
Hmm. There's a
You
lot of good stuff. Yeah.
you don't see that mentioned in a lot of allied theatre selectors. Uh, in the infantry section, you may have heard us mention the Canadian Tank Hunter section.
Mm.
Those not initiated in the Canadian Tank Hunter section, this is like the German, they've got a version of this.
Panzersysterin. Yeah.
Yeah, the Panzer Destroyer Truppen, whatever, however you
Mm.
pronounce it. But it's a veteran squad, but they can purchase up to 4 Piats for 15 points each in the
Mm.
squad.
Mm.
Obviously, it's expensive, and you need another loader.
Mm.
Um, but it it provides you a strong infantry-based anti-tank
Yeah.
option if you decide to go down the path of staghounds, which are putting out lots of shots to kill infantry. Um, even if you don't go down the staghound AA, the Crusader
Mm.
AA, it's a full
Yeah.
zipped up anti-aircraft tank,
Mm.
which is again is a really good option. Um, so it's a good way to take your British models, turn them Canadian, and make them you know do something a little bit differently
Yeah.
um, from that. And yeah, it's a really enjoyable edge to it. It's also worth noting that they have got army special rules.
Mm.
So Canadian armies follow the same army special rules as found on page 17 of Armies of Great Britain. So they get the free observer.
Yeah.
But instead of choosing a national trait like Up and Atom or Vengeance or Rapid Fire, they get Dogged.
Mm.
Um, all regular and veteran Canadian infantry units may be upgraded to Stubborn for +1 points per man. All inexperienced Canadian infantry units may be given green for +1 points per man. And then they hate the SS.
Mm.
Uh, so Canadian troops are fanatic when fighting in close quarters against the SS. So,
Yeah.
okay, for sure, Up and Atom is such a strong
It is, but only if you have
ability.
the assault troops
Correct.
to use it, right? Otherwise,
Correct.
I would rather have vengeance or something like that, something that removes pins. But
Yep.
for this one, I don't especially mind. You don't have access to that. It's okay, I guess, and you can run all stubborn if you want to.
Hmm.
Which would make you less likely to run away when flamers are in the vicinity. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, there's a lot of good. This is sort of flamer immune, immune, and it's almost Panzerfaust immune as well.
Hmm.
Um, there's just such a lot of good stuff here. Would you ever run 4 Piats in one unit?
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't think you ever would. I think 2 P would be the maximum you would go
No.
down in my mind. But it's the idea of having that Ram Kangaroo
Mm.
with veteran engineers and a flamethrower and submachine guns,
Yes.
and and what's even worse, doing it twice.
Yeah.
Two of them. I send two lots down. No, this could be overlooked from time to time. I think. So part of this sort of last piece of our trilogy is to highlight what we looked at, what we thought about.
Mm,
We're not going to say why it never made the top 10, but it's a good selector,
it is.
really good selector.
For me, the reason why it didn't make the top 10 is that the transports that I would want to take with this one, the build that I would want to take, is not hyper competitive, and they are vulnerable to being pinned by small arms fire still. So for me, that is the reason why it sort of bumps down a bit, but it is really still an interesting one, and a new and different way of playing your Brits, as you said.
Yep.
So. Oh, I forgot this one. I forgot we
There's
had this
one.
one. We
There's
have one
one
more.
bonus one. Now this
This
is
is
a
the Deutsche
bonus.
England Korps Kampfgruppe from Gigant.
Yeah. Now I talked Bo into
Yeah,
including
you
this
did.
as a bonus extra, because well, the first thing is Gigant, the book I'm holding up to the camera now, is not in Easy Army.
Yep.
Nothing in this book is in Easy Army. So if you want to know, buy the book. Uh, this is going to be my passion project for 2013. Sorry, 2023. Maybe that was the date this book was published. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, 2017 it was published, but this is my passion project. It is something that's really captured my attention and inspired me. I've still got my handwritten notes in it in the page. So for the audience, Gigant, the book matches up with Operation Sea Lion, and it is the invasion of Great Britain by Germany that never happened. And Gigant is the second book, and it tells the story of when Hitler needed to open up a second front on the British mainland,
Mm,
and he did it by an air invasion using the Messerschmitt 363 Gigant, which is the large transport aircraft, which is sort of the predecessor to the larger military aircraft we see today, like the
mm,
Globemasters and Hercules, big lift
mm.
aircraft. And it's an armor platoon, and I love it. So here we go. Thank you for this. So command vehicle. Uh, I can't pronounce the first one. It's the Funkspwagen SDKF 2368 rad AMD Panhard 178 command vehicle. The SDKF 265, the Panzer 1. Then there's also the Panzer 3, or any armoured car or SDKFZ 251 Hanomag with the command rule. So this book is a little bit clumsily written, and it just says Panzer 3. In my mind, that's any
It
early
means
war
the
version
Panzer
you want.
III with the darker. Yep.
That's the Dakar Panzer 3 to me. Then two tanks. So it's the Panzer 1 or the Flugpanzer.
Hmm.
Flugpanzer 1, which is a flying panzer. We'll get to that, audience,
Yeah,
don't
we'll
worry.
get to that one, I
Yeah.
guess.
So Panzer 2, A, B, C, or F, the 35T, the 38T, Panzer 3. This is where it actually says the variations of Panzer 3. You
Mm,
can get C, D, E, or F, so that does fall into the category of the Dakar Panzer.
yep.
It also lets you take a Panzer 4, A, B, C, or D, Suma S35, or the Renault R35, 39, or 40. Pardon me. HQ, 0 to 1 Captain or Major, 0 to 1 Medic, 0 to 1 Forward Observer, air only.
Mm,
Infantry, 1 to 3 infantry squads, so it does demand that you take at least one infantry squad.
yep.
Here, infantry squads. Here, veteran infantry squads. Waffen SS squads, early war. Kratschützen squads, or a maximum of one here pioneer squad. 0 to 1 sniper, 0 to
Mm,
2 medium machine guns, 0 to 1 mortars, light or medium, 0 to 1 anti tank rifle. Then artillery pieces are 0 to 1 light or medium artillery piece, Pack 36, Flak 38, Flak 36, or the 88mm. Armored car, it's the SD KFZ, so it's the triple two, the 6 rad, the 8 rad, the Panhard, the 251/1, 251/10, the triple wagon, British Universal Carrier, or motorbike and sidecar combination with medium machine gun.
ooh,
Ooh, love
ooh.
it. Tanks, so 0 to 1 vehicles. So it's the above tank list, but you also get the Flampanzer,
Mm,
the Panzerjäger 1, Panzer 1, Stug 3A, Panzer Kampfwagen 35R, excuse me, or the 251/2, the SD KFZ 8 armored cab, uh, and it's the SD KFZ 10/4 with Flak 38, or the Opel Blitz with Flak 38. We'll come back to that.
yep.
Transports. The platoon must include enough transport vehicles to transport all infantry and artillery units from truck, heavy field car, Lafley S20, SDKFZ 3, 6, 10, SDKFZ 7, or British Universal Carrier.
Ding.
Ding
That's the
ding.
one.
So there's a note. The various trucks and cars might include basically captured vehicles
Mm,
from. from these places. Special rules: forward the guns. German anti-tank units were highly aggressive. A player may re-roll failed order checks for an anti-tank unit or vehicle when testing for an advance or a run order. Love it.
So
Absolutely
my
love it.
first guess is you'll do something weird with that Flugpanzer thing, which I don't even know what is, but I'm guessing it's something funny.
Yep. So I need to
And then you're going to mount all of your infantry in Bren carriers. Am
um
I right?
almost there.
Okay.
Almost there. If you just bear with me, I need to find the rules for the Flugpanzer. Right. So for the audience, so the concept was that the Flugpanzer was towed in the air, flying behind the Messerschmitt 363s, and they had their own little airframe, and they were towed along, and they had their own little propeller at the back. And when it came time to deploy them, they would glide in to the
Mhm.
battlefield, and the benefit here was that the crews were already inside the tank. So as soon as it landed, they would shed the wings and just drive straight into battle. I'm talking as though it's amazing, but it reads amazing. So, rules for using the Flugpanzer 1. Um, After drawing an order dice, the German player places it on the table with an advance uppermost to indicate the chosen landing site and the direction in which the tank will land, and you roll a d6.
Mhm.
The tank lands on a 2 plus, but sorry, the tank lands on a 2 plus, but has to abort the landing and make another circuit if a 1 is rolled. So on a 2 plus, it lands. On a 1, it's delayed,
It
goes round
yeah,
again.
it's delayed. Yeah.
Yep. For game purposes, assume the tank to be located on its order dice facing in the appropriate direction. So you pick where it wants to go, roll the dice, 2 plus, it lands. Roll a d6 and add the result to get the distance the glider moves forward from its order dice while landing. A veteran crew rolls 2d6, with the player selecting which dice to discard. The tank may be damaged if it runs into a solid structure such as a building, wall, obstacle, etc. Roll a d6 minus 1 on the damage table if that happens. Flying tanks are not affected by anti-aircraft guns. It would just
Why not?
there's words that just it says they're not affected.
Yeah.
The Flug Panzer costs exactly the same as a normal Panzer One, um, etc. So once it lands, it's on an advance, then it just goes.
Yeah.
So what that effectively means is, so it lands on a 2 plus,
Yeah.
down it comes. Then you roll a d6 to see how far forward it goes, and then you open fire with your 2 medium machine guns, your 10 shots,
Because you're on an advance order.
because you've just come on board on an advance order. So
Where can where can you do this on the board? Is that anywhere?
yeah, you pick where you want to land, and then the glider glides in, and you land, and then you go. You do it. You fire. You kill stuff. I
This
love
is
it.
almost into to like Capaccio territory where where you can land behind the enemy lines with
Yep.
your tank.
This this tank is the ultimate artillery mortar killer.
Yes.
Just to land. So look, I'll talk you through the list. I've got a
Mm,
paper list that I've written. So and it's for 1250 points. So I've taken an upgun Panzer III as the
mm,
command vehicle. So it's 165 points. You can only get 2 of these flying panzers. So I've taken 2 of them.
yeah.
Uh, we've spoken at length about the motorbike and sidecar and the
Mm,
armored car sections for the
mm,
Germans. Yes, I've taken
yeah.
one.
Yeah. Of course.
Uh, Inexperienced medium mortar. I've taken a 5-man pioneer squad
Mm,
with a flamethrower and 3 submachine guns, 2 Bren carriers with the additional LMG, veteran sniper, a regular anti-tank rifle. I have taken an air observer,
mm.
It's not a competitive list. We know that
No.
already. I've taken 5 veteran here grenadiers
Mm,
with 5 submachine guns. So that's the Bren carriers full. And a 10-man here grenadier squad with a light machine gun, and then a truck with a medium machine gun at regular, and then just a regular truck
mm,
without the medium machine gun. And I have taken the Opel Blitz flak, but I've upgraded the truck to be an armored cab, and I've
yeah, that
upgraded
makes
the flak.
sense.
I've upgraded the gun to a quad light autocannon.
Yeah. Nice.
So it's an absolute meat chopper, and it's 16 order dice, and I am in love with it.
I
Cannot
understand
cannot
that.
wait to
Yeah.
get it on the table.
Uh, that is amazing. That's really, really cool.
Yep. It's a cool list.
Yeah.
You you know, you're not going to see it. I have never seen it.
No,
I've never seen it on the table.
no. And
Yeah.
it's almost I mean it's almost into what if territory of history, right? So it does allow you a lot of opportunities for what you want to do paint wise and model wise, I guess as well.
That's
Will the main question for me is, will you be modeling your Panther ones with wings or not?
what one of them will be modeled with the wings,
Yes.
with the detachable airframe.
Nice.
Absolutely. I have seen it done.
Yeah.
One person in the world has done it, and it was been on display at Warlord Games HQ. So
Mm,
I had somebody get photographs of it for me. I have managed to get in contact with the person who built it. We've spoken about what worked, what didn't work, techniques used, materials used, and I'm definitely gonna do it. And it's also what you said. It's a great modeling project.
yeah, it
You
is.
know, there'll be the Flying Panzer ones. There'll be the German Bren carriers with
Mm,
German crews and German MG 40, MG 3042s, whatever there will be in them.
yeah.
The the truck with the quad light auto cannons. It'll just be a really good modeling project, and it'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially
Lots of
the first time a flying Panzer One, you know, effectively deep strikes next to somebody's medium artillery piece and kills it.
yeah. Oh, the
Oh,
glory of it.
yeah. And if and if I had to ever encounter a Luftwaffe field division, I will just fly over your barbed wire
Yeah,
and
it
land.
land right behind your 88.
Yep. Fun
Oh,
times.
yeah, that'll be great. Right, we are at the end, but this is not the end, dear viewers. Don't despair. This is not the end of me and Alistair. We are going to come back to you, and maybe before you know it, because pretty soon the lists for the WTC are going to drop, and Alistair and I are maybe going to do a few videos on that as well. So we will be back at some point. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that we mentioned everyone's favorite selector this time around. We certainly did try. There was a lot of great stuff here, and as we talked about, all of these might have made the top tens as well. And in the hands of a good player, we definitely think that many of them could win tournaments. These are really good, many of them, and very, very fun to play and model as well. Ali, do you have any final words?
I hope that the 3 videos we've done together will encourage your audience to look towards the campaign books, to look towards theatre selectors, and to not be afraid to use them and to try them. Over as these recent years have passed for me, I'm now very much fixed in my mind that there are 3 ways to play bolt action:
Mm,
generic platoons, tank platoons, and theatre selectors. Never mix them,
mm,
but those are the 3 great ways to play.
yeah,
And if you want to enjoy a historical aspect of bolt action, theatre selectors are the way forward.
cool. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you in the next one. Cheers. And I just need to tap the right button here. I'm very good at technical stuff, right? Cheers.